everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Odun. My name still remains Odun Akirele, and I am so excited to have you with me this afternoon on this show. Today we will be talking about a topic that is very, very interesting to me, and it's one of the priority of this show is to help marriages. And the way we do that is to talk about the issues that we have in our marriages and to prefer solution if that is possible, which is why I try as much as possible to bring people that are experienced, women that have gone through whatever challenges a recently married person is going through. And so the topic we will be talking about today is recipes for a good marriage. I actually tried to find out the meaning of recipe. And of course, we all use Google. So I Googled the meaning of recipe and I found out that recipe is a set of instructions that describe how to prepare or make something, especially a dish of prepared food. And so what we are going to be doing is to give you that recipe, that thing you need to make your marriage work with the help of God, actually. Because without the help of God, we can't get anything done. And with me today is someone I called Pimo, not just me. Everybody call her Pimo. Her name is Mori Oshumakinde. Like I said, she's fondly known as Pimo. She is an inspiring and resourceful woman. She's motivated by the Spirit and the Word of God to effectively and strategically influence both men and women. I'm going to chip in something. Yes, she's led by the Spirit, but she's one of the most practical pastors that I know. Because I've listened to her talk, I've been to her show. She's actually the convener of this women group on Facebook called Babes Redefined. I've been a member of that group since it started, and I've listened to her talk severally. She's very realistic. She backs it up with the Word of God, yes, but she's very realistic and down to earth. She is a certified customer service facilitator. She is a coach. She is the head pastor of the Baptizing Church, TBC, called Out of Zion. She's based in Lagos, and she's happily married to Dele Oshumakinde, who is the serving overseer of the Baptizing Church, and they are blessed with 3 amazing children. I'm not going to mention the name of the children. You don't need to know it. Welcome, Pimo, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Odun. It's such my pleasure, and my delight to be here today, honestly, despite all the
technical issues.
hitches, but we're here. I'm telling you, but yeah, we made it. Glory to God. Hallelujah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, my other guest is Wande Oluwasegun. She is a strategic marketing and communication professional of 20 years experience. She started her career in the marketing communications industry as a client service executive and later joined the conglomerate organization in the FMCG industry as a brand manager. Our children clothing line launched in April 2015 and it's called Arambe. You need to be a Nigerian to understand that name. As in, she has wonders she wants to display. So that's the meaning of Arambe. And then Wanda is a worship minister and songwriter of over 3 decades of service. And she's also a good marriage counselor. She works with the Lighthouse Christian Outreach Center, where she gathered and fed physically and spiritually, not just spiritually. She actually gathered over 100 boys and girls in December of 2016 to feed them. She succeeded in rehabilitating 15 of them who followed through on their skills accusation and faith foundation. Wanda is also happily married for 18 years and they are blessed with 4 children. Welcome to the show, Wanda.
Thank you.
We are so delighted to have you with us this afternoon.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so straight to the topic of the day. I'm going to address it to you first. What do you think is the meaning of recipe in your own words?
I think in your definition, you actually described it right. Recipe, simply put, is a set of guidelines, instructions, detailed instructions, that you require to prepare something. And it has to be detailed and clear so that you don't make mistakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the rules we are getting today are going to be detailed and clear.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, people. In your own words, what does recipe mean?
Well, like you rightly said, recipe is just understanding, knowing the ingredients that is needed for a particular outcome in different scenario, whether with respect to food, with respect to a particular dish. So the ingredients, the instructions to follow, that is needed for you to have a desired outcome. So I think, and once you follow the instructions, you follow the recipe as it is laid out, you are bound to have the results that is expected. So if even, for example, with respect to food dish, if they say use half a cup of milk and you use a full cup of milk, you're not going to get the desired result. So it's just a mixture of both the ingredients and the instructions needed, to get a desired result.
Thank you so much. So, in line with that, if we are going to apply that to marriage, the topic of today, recipe for a godly marriage, how would you define it, Pimo?
Hmm. Okay, so just like you have defined what recipe is, which is a set of guidelines, like Wande said, set of guidelines, set of instructions. I would say there's several things. Now I'm going to speak from a Christian perspective, and just to run through a few things. I think the first thing you need to have as your guideline is to understand what your value system is as a person. What is your value system? If you understand what your value system is, it's going to determine certain things. Secondly, know the will of God for your life. It's so amazing how people get into marriage without even understanding where they are going to in life and what the will of God is for their own life. So you need to know what your value system is. If you're a Christian, what is your value system? What do you believe in? What role does God play in your life, in your decision making, in your marriage? Because that is what you're going to bring into the marriage. And then, of course, like I said, know the will of God for your life. What is God's plan and purpose for you? Adam understood the will of God for his life. It was clear. He planted the garden. He said, tend it and keep it. That was his purpose in life. And of course, understanding your purpose, aside knowing the will of God, you also have to understand your purpose. And then you also have to understand the purpose of marriage. When you understand that, you mix all these things together, then you will get, and then of course, acknowledging, accepting each other's uniqueness. That is so important. I always tell people sameness is not oneness. So understanding your uniqueness, your differences, understanding and accepting, understanding, acknowledging and accepting. And then of course, communication is key, is great. Understanding how to communicate with one another. And of course, love language will come under this and all of that. And then lastly on my list is respect and love each other. Honestly, if we follow these guidelines, if we have these things intact, I tell you, your marriage will be heaven on earth.
All right, thank you so much. But I'm going to come back to what you just said about Adam understanding his purpose. But do we actually think Adam understood his purpose? Because I think if he did, we won't be where we are right now. I might be wrong.
Adam understood his purpose clearly. It was clear to him. The Lord planted the garden and he said, Adam, he put him in the garden, keep it and tend it. And he did that. Honestly, he did that.
Until the woman
Even
come
when
around.
God looked at him and said, Well, I won't put the blame on the woman, though, because the Bible also tells us that she gave him the apple with him. He was right there beside her. So it wasn't like, now, the issue of purpose here wasn't, it was more of, I really don't know what happened to Adam. Honestly, I don't know. Because he was right there with his wife. God gave him the instruction. God said to him, don't eat out of this, don't do this. I don't know what kind of message he passed across to his wife. But the wife, as always, Eve, when the serpent came, she overdid it. God said, don't eat. She said, God said, don't eat. Don't even touch it. You know, as we always do, women now, we always like
We
to overdo
exaggerate.
sometimes.
Yeah.
The word God did not send you. We will add our own to it. Said, God said we should not eat it. We shouldn't even touch it. That wasn't what God said. God said, don't eat it. You understand? But of course, that happened and here we are today. But I don't think that means that Adam did not understand his
Understand
purpose.
this
He
purpose.
did,
Okay.
and he was fulfilling his purpose. Yes, he did. He did.
Okay, thank you so much. So, Wendy, let me come back to you. Recipe for a good marriage, how would you define it?
Okay.
Because, she mentioned some points that she said are recipes that she listed down. So, from your own point of view, a recipe for a good marriage or recipes for a good marriage, what does it entail?
Okay, I will approach it in a slightly different way. Because I believe this recipe is a simple one, actually. But the way we apply it in our different homes may differ. The application may be different, right? But broadly, I like to look at it both from spiritual angle and common sense angle, right? Spiritual because that's fundamental and it's quite important. And it's important first for us to know that marriage is instructed by God. It's a command by God. It's not man's idea, So, and that's why he gave instructions, right? And if you see, I think about 3 scriptures, I can quickly refer to. Ephesians 5:31-33, Genesis 2:24, and Matthew 19:20 something. Now, there is an instruction that cuts across all 3 scriptures, which is, the man shall leave both his father and his mother and cleave to his wife. Right? So the first instruction is that he leaves both his mom and dad and cleave to the wife. I will come back to that.
Okay.
Keep that. Secondly, he gave instruction as to how the relationship should be. I would focus more on the Ephesians 5 because it breaks it down quite a bit. Right. He says that the relationship is likened to the relationship between Jesus and the church. And hold that, because I will expatiate if you have time, right? The relationship between Jesus and the church. And the third thing, he then gave what role each party in the contract will play. So for the man, representing Jesus, what his role is, and for the woman, who represents the church, what her role is. So that's the spiritual angle. And I dare tell you that, those 3 recipes fundamentally covers, any area you want to, however you want to, twist the issues in marriage, right? And then the common sense aspect. I try to tell people, from experience, my experience, and some of the sessions I've had, that one thing is you never try to play God. Which means, everybody's unique in the way God has created us. Even twins have different fingerprints, isn't it? So we're all unique. And that's what makes it interesting. So you could never compare your spouse to somebody else. And you could never compare your marriage to another. It's always and must always be unique. So never play God.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is there a recipe that is fundamentally connected to every marriages? Is there a certain thing? Is there this particular recipe that applies to all marriages?
Yeah. See, whichever way we turn it, the spiritual foundation is always the fundamental recipe. And so if you'll allow me, I'll take it one by one again. So Firstly, is the fact that the man leaves his mother and father, or his father and mother, to cleave to his wife. Meaning, to a large extent, if you've noticed, the main issue is firstly mother-in-law wahala.
Okay, we'll come to that.
Okay,
that one is
all right.
is a whole topic on its own.
Exactly.
So, I want to ask Pimo this particular question. Is there a particular rule that is applicable to all marriages?
Well, like Wande rightly said, marriage is firstly instituted by God. And I think, but then it works as long as people are in line with the principle of marriage. And I would say it cuts across both parties is understanding the role of the man and of the woman. The role of the man and of the woman. I think when everybody in whatever marriage it is understands what it means to be a husband, what it means to be a wife. This is even putting aside Christianity. Generally, understanding what it means to be a husband, understanding what it means to be a wife. I think once that is settled, that cuts across all marriages. Understanding that, so that's even not going into the scripture, the Ephesians, because there's so many non-Christians that actually have great marriages. That's just the truth. There are so many non-Christians that have great marriages. But then, if you want to go by the Christian way, then you go by the rules of the book, which is, what Wande has mentioned, typically. But generally, I would say one rule that cuts across, understanding each other's rules.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the rules. Okay. From your own experience as someone that's been married for a while, what particular role was it that you were playing? Because I want us to be practical and to give our own personal experiences. What was that particular thing that you think you were doing that stood out in your marriage?
First of all, I'll say, it's so easy to give the recipe out. But when you come home, many times, you find yourself, being faulted by the recipe. But, I would say one thing, that it's been a journey, I was never perfect from the onset. As a matter of fact, it was a rough onset. My pastor used to say something, Pastor Sam Ade, that, when people say to him or say to his wife, that I'd like to have a spouse like yours, he laughs, and he says to them that you better be careful what you ask for. Because if you say you want the end product that you're seeing, you better be prepared to go through the rough journey, right? So for me, I had to learn patience. I had to learn a lot of patience. I am quite vocal, and I have a spouse who also knows what he wants, and he's a lawyer, so you can imagine. So I had to learn patience, and that was really tough. If you ask, as a Christian, I would be one of the first to say, I have the fruit of the Spirit. But when it comes to the practical aspect of it, and the fact that you're now living with someone who is totally different, from a different background, from a different, ideal, so to speak, and then you come together. I call marriage a place of sea finish, if you'll permit my French, where now you have to sleep and wake up and be naked in front of somebody, and you have to discuss practically everything, and so forth. So that in some cases people never get over, So for me, it was a long learning period with patience.
With patience. So the key word from this is patience.
Yeah.
So Maureen, Over to you. Your own personal experience. What stands out for you in your
Yeah.
marriage? What do you think you're doing that is making your marriage work?
By being myself. By being myself. I think that's one of the greatest things that I'm telling you. I'll take a minute to celebrate my husband here, because that's one of the things that has worked for us.
Yeah,
Understanding our uniqueness, our differences, understanding, acknowledging, and accepting.
exactly.
That has worked for
Exactly.
us, has worked for me. Because anyone who knows me, knows my husband, knows that we are two separate people. We don't like the same things. We don't do the same things. I'm telling you, like I said earlier, oneness is not sameness. To tell you
True.
how much we don't do things together, we don't do and code together,
True.
except it's a family outing. And when I say family outing, I'm talking about maybe burial or birthday, even birthday self, we don't do and code. Do you understand? So, but understanding
That sounds
who I
familiar.
am and he accepting me for who I am
Letting
is
you be
one of the
you.
biggest breakthroughs. Oh, one of the biggest breakthroughs. And I letting him be him
Him. Yeah.
is one of the biggest breakthroughs for us in marriage. I'll tell you, I have learned that over time. I've learned that. Now, I won't tell you, like one day said to, that I arrived there just like that.
Easily.
But one thing I want to say here is, okay, for me, we courted for about 5.5 years. So
Wow.
yeah, we had known each other. We knew where we were going. I knew he was going into ministry. This was something we had known. He was a pastor when I met him in university. So I'd already known, where the trajectory of where we were heading. So coming into marriage was more like a continuation of a 5-year courtship. You get. So I didn't expect anything spectacular to change all of a sudden in marriage because I'm now Mrs. or because we now live together. For adventure, maybe the only thing we didn't do was to sleep together before courtship, before marriage.
Marriage.
But then it was almost like a continuation because we had been in each other's life for 5 years. So yeah. But one thing I would say is understanding who I am, acknowledging who I am, accepting me for who I am is my biggest breakthrough,
Wow.
and vice versa.
Wow. And to me, I think that's the best gift you can get as a woman.
Yeah.
Once you meet that person that accepts you for who you are, take you for who you are, it actually becomes easy for you to let
Yeah.
that person be themselves.
True.
It
Right.
becomes easy.
Right.
Because you're like,
Right.
naturally, women will want to pay back. So if you let us be us, it becomes
Yeah.
very easy for us to let you be you.
Yeah.
That's a huge point for me. And so,
Right.
talking about that letting you be you, and you cutting for 5.5 years, there was love, obviously, unconditional love. So, how since you've been married, has that love fizzled
Yeah.
down? Has it simmered a bit?
My dear sister, the Bible says
Sit up.
that
I can see you're getting ready to answer.
love
that.
never fails. Oh yes, I'm sitting up because it's a very deep question. Because love in itself never fails. Love, the genuine love that we have. You see, one thing I want you to understand: for a Christian, what sustains the marriage is not the all those other type of love, of sensual love of attraction and all of that. What sustains a marriage and keeps it going is the love from above. And that's why in Ephesians, like one day rightly said, God had to explain to us that this marriage thing, I'm telling you, in this kingdom, the only way you can understand it and the only way you can be successful with it is if you understand the relationship between Christ and the church.
That's right.
So for me, I will tell you that the love is there. But when you talk about feelings and feeling loved and all of that, of course, your love will stand through the test of times. There were times I didn't feel love. Definitely. There were times I probably wanted and say, are you sure you are the one that I married? So yeah, there are times that would happen. So yeah, the love remains constant. The love that binds us in marriage remains constant. But the love for one another, which is expressed in different ways, will be tested through time. It will be tested. So yeah, there'll be high moments, there'll be low. I tell people, it's not every time you're going to feel butterfly in your tummy. I'm telling you, forget that thing. It's not every time you're going to have goosebumps all over you and you're feeling like, oh, it's doing me summer, summer, summer. It's not all the time. There'll be times when you have to make practical decisions. There'll be times when you'll be emotional. There'll be times when you will get on each other's nerves. There'll be times when you understand? So, yeah, it would happen. But I'm saying that the love that binds you actually remains constant. Because the Bible says love never fails.
All right, thank you so much. No one wants to add something.
I mean, you can be more correct. That was really, expanded in a way that, it connects to me. But I would like to dig a little deeper into the spiritual aspect of it without sounding too
no.
spiritual, right? Okay, so talking about the love, like she rightly said, like Pimo rightly said, the important love that we have to carry through is the love like God loves, and that is agape love, right? Again, going back to that Ephesians 31 to 33, it talks about the love of Jesus with the church, and that love is unconditional. That love made him give his life for the church. As a matter of fact, relating Jesus' position to the husband means, and I take it literally because that's what the Bible says, that the husband must be able to love the wife unconditionally.
To be able to lay down his life.
Absolutely. Must be willing to lay down his life for his wife. Now I say again that the principle, the recipe is the same, basic for all marriages. But the application maybe, tweaked a little bit, adjusted here and there. But the fundamental is the agape love is what carries us through. What Pimo was talking about is the eros love.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's what starts off the relationship. If it's not there, then you are probably just deceiving yourself. It has to be there, right? So the eros love carries through till the marriage starts. When the marriage starts, then the see finish begins. Okay? And the eros cannot sustain that. So many a times you're going to have to switch to the agape love. And the third one, the filial love. And filial love, a woman has to master. Filial love is the brotherly love. Filial love is the, my brother, my friend, the understanding love, So sometimes a woman has to relate to her husband like a brother.
Yeah.
Sometimes a woman has to relate to a husband like a child. Sometimes they really want to be like a child.
Most times they are like a child.
So a woman has to master, how to switch from one to another. Another point I want to make is, I talked about a man living, he's a father and mother and cleaving to the wife. And if we go back to Jesus' experience again, Jesus, when he left his father and mother and he went in pursuit of the church, and he never looked back, right? Because he understood that this is an assignment between himself and God and the church. And that's where the threefold cord comes in. It's a threefold cord that must never break. It's the foundation. And I will do an expression, right? So God is at the top of the triangle, right? The man is here, the woman is here. Oftentimes, the man and woman try to work it out this way. And, working it out this way is leaving God out of it.
Out of it.
But when you walk it this way, then you're working it towards God. What I'm trying to bring out is in a marriage, and especially because of the uniqueness of the people, it's important to know that you can never change a person. And I'm tying that back to Pimo's expression of understanding the uniqueness
Of each other.
of each other. So the best you can do, because she's lucky or she's blessed,
She's blessed.
having a man who also is, easily involved in wanting to understand, the uniqueness of his
Letting
spouse.
her be her.
Yeah. In many cases, you find people who, for no fault of theirs, it's just basically their background, what they've been exposed to. They're not easily able to come to terms with,
They
you
feel
are like
threatened.
this, and I have to accept it.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
But when we have the fundamental understanding of how God wants us to play, then you know that the more you go towards God, the closer you both get. Because when you both get to God, you're together. I just wanted to put that out. That threefold cord must never be broken. Thank you.
That's deep. The threefold cord thing, because I usually think that it's just us. That we come this way, not this way, on the triangle. So that's deep for me.
Yeah.
So we are going to go on a short break, and then we're going to come back very soon.
Okay.
Okay, you're welcome back to the show. And I can tell you we've been having fun, we've been having a good time with both our studio guests and our virtual guest. And so, Maureen, I want to ask you a question, because Wanda said something that other time about how she had to develop the attitude of being patient, and that takes a bit of persistency to me. And for you to be that persistent, do you need to keep up a positive attitude for you to be persistent when it comes to marriage?
Okay, sorry, I didn't get that. Can you go over that again? I didn't get that.
Okay, when I asked one day, the one thing she was doing that she thinks is making her marriage work,
Yeah.
and she said she had to be patient,
Right.
and she had to learn patience. And I am of the school of
Yeah.
thought that to learn patience, to actually be patient, you have to keep up a positive attitude. So is that sustainable?
Okay.
Is there ever a time when you are just even tired of being patient?
Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, so patience is a fruit of the spirit.
But she is a Christian,
And
she
as
had to
Christians,
struggle through it.
I understand, but just the same way as it is with fruits, we develop it. You understand? So when it says something is a fruit, that means a seed was sown and then it grew. So, but when you have the Spirit of God in you, you cultivate this thing and it grows. And I won't tell you that we come into patience just like that. Even the Bible said that Jesus Christ had to learn obedience through the things that he suffered. The Bible also says about Jesus, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. So Jesus too had to learn obedience, had to learn how to be patient, had to learn how to, accommodate certain things. See, for as long as we are in this flesh, we are going to have to battle certain things. But one thing we know is that when we constantly yield ourselves to the Spirit, we would receive the fruits of the Spirit. So I'm not going to tell you that once you become a Christian, automatically you just begin to exercise patience. Don't let me get started with what happened with me over the weekend. And it seems like patience was not even available in my dictionary. So I'm telling you that you would find yourself in situations where you will be tested. Yes, and I think God knows that. See, for as long as we're in this flesh, we're going to keep fighting.
Struggling.
We're going to keep trying to put the flesh under. No, I don't want to use the word struggling, but we're going to keep having to sow to the spirit so that we do not sow to the flesh. So we constantly make, a conscious effort to sow to the spirit, to tell yourself, if I sow to the spirit, I'm going to reap the benefits of it. But if I sow more to the flesh, I'm going to reap the fruit of it, which is death. The Bible says, he that sows to the spirit will reap life. So why don't I just sow to the spirit and then I reap life, all the time? So yeah, patience is the fruit of the spirit. We're expected to exercise patience, but I dare tell you that there will be times when you'll be pushed. I can ask you, Odu, when Jesus found himself in the temple and he made whips and he started chasing those that were selling dough, please, where was patience at that time?
How did
I'm
that?
just asking a question. But because he needed to react to something, he said, you turned my father's house to a house of den, to a den of thieves. Yes, so he was reacting to that. And one would have said, Jesus, you could not hold yourself and not do this and not do that. No, he was reacting, and he had every right to do that. Do you understand what I just use that to just
Yeah.
lighten up the whole, the whole
Yeah, I
conversation.
understand.
Do you understand? Not that Jesus lacked patience. Yeah.
Of
So
course.
the most important thing here is let's continually sow to the spirit, and help ourselves build that fruit of the spirit, cultivate it, develop it, and all of that. But I tell you, even Moses, do
Of
you know what it was
course.
like to have to manage those children of Israel? And yet the Bible says he was the meekest man. Ah, my sister, it's not easy. Let me just tell you like that. It's not easy. But with the help of God, we can make it through. And we
Yeah.
need loads of it, not just in marriage, in every form of relationship. We need it, not just in marriage. Even in living in this world, in relating with people, we need loads of patience and every fruit of the Spirit at work in us.
That's right.
Thank you so much. So, invariably, the most important thing we need to find out is the fruit of the spirit. So, one day I'm going to ask you, this
Right.
fruit of the spirit, how do we apply it to our marriages?
How?
How?
Um, I think I'll capture it by saying we just have to be deliberate.
Persistency.
Yeah. You have to be deliberate. Deliberate because, like Mo said, persistency is a desire of the heart, right? Because, of course, you want a marriage you would love, a marriage that is sustainable, but many times life events plays up and, you respond to it in different ways.
Yeah.
So you just have to be deliberate. So if you're deliberate, even when sometimes such situations play up, little things like, there's a golden example, toothpaste.
Toothpaste, yeah.
We all know about that.
Yeah.
Can cause a lifelong crack to the marriage. But if we're deliberate from the perspective of the spiritual foundation, then it makes it easy to apply the fruit of the Spirit. So it's about being deliberate. You make up your mind, I want this marriage to be the most enjoyable. And after all, you're not competing with anybody. It's a lifelong contract.
Decision.
So you better be deliberate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, persistency, unconditional love, going back to God, being deliberate. Those are parts of the recipes we have been giving you so far on the show. But I want to go back to Maureen. The first time she talked about the recipe, you mentioned some points, some things that you listed down as your own recipe for a good marriage. Can we talk about the first one?
Okay, so the first one I said, value. Know what your value system is. What is your value system? It's amazing that a number of people do so many things without even understanding what their value system is. And you find people go into marriages with people that they don't share the same value system. And that is a fundamental error. It is such a See, my sister, I'm sure you know that not everyone who says, I go to church or that I attend this church or that I serve God, I'm a Christian, that is actually of Christ. That you're in church does not necessarily mean that you are in Christ.
Yeah.
So understanding your value system, what is your value? What are your values? That is so important. And I think that is one of the foundational discussions that should even happen before even saying that you are going into marriage at all. And for me, that is the first thing.
That's the starting point. Okay,
Know
let's
your
talk
value.
about a bit about this value, this core value thing. Because I've come across a lot of people in my working life that actually don't have that core value. They can't actually even define it. They don't know what it is. Because I've come across women that can't define themselves. So where does that come from? Where did we get it wrong? This core value thing.
I think to a large extent, whether looking at it from common sense perspective or spiritual. It's a fundamental, should I say, thing that defines whoever a person is. Core value is what, if I met you in 5 minutes, I can have an idea of who you are. Not in totality, but I can almost, say this is the kind of person. Core value over time is nurtured, right? Because, if you look at people's background, to a large extent, not everybody came from backgrounds with very strong core value. So sometimes you may need to look at what you grew up knowing and what you need to know. And everything is tied back to the Word of God. So when we say core value, it has to be rooted in the understanding of the Word of God. So for instance, and you have people who talk about core value, but when you get to know them, you mean something else.
Yeah.
You just talk about it on the surface. So it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to imbibe it as a way of life. Core value is, so if you say my core value is integrity,
modesty.
Your modesty. People have to be able to see that in you.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the topic of marriage, it has to be something like Pimo said, that you both believe in.
Yeah.
So for instance, if we say integrity is it, then in everything, especially when you relate, with children, with people, it has to be intact. Because, the way you play it is what the children then begin to learn.
Let me cut you short. When we're talking about this integrity thing, let's talk about truth in marriage. Because when I was doing my research about this topic, one of the recipe that I stumbled on was truth. Telling each other the truth, where I think integrity comes into play. If I'm not a person of integrity, I can't tell the truth.
True.
So how does that apply to marriage?
Say that again. The question.
Integrity and truth. We are talking about, you said something, you mentioned something now, you said integrity. If one of your core values, if someone relates with you and says this person has integrity, as in whatever he says or he or she says, that's the way you relate it. So you can't be a person of integrity and not tell the truth.
Oh yeah.
And I said, I stumbled upon this recipe for a good marriage where they said truth, telling each other the truth is very important. And over time, we've come to realize that they said, you don't talk about your past and your new relationship. To me, you're not telling the truth.
True.
So how do we apply that to marriage?
Okay. To start with, that last statement I disagree with.
Okay.
So when you get into a relationship, before you in fact begin to talk about your past and your whole history, you must have established the fact that this relationship is going somewhere.
Okay.
All right. So I think the important thing is you need to know the process of unveiling the truth. Right? I will explain that.
Okay.
So you meet someone today and you start courting. So Pimo talked about 5 years. Mine was 3 years.
My sister was actually 10 years. Pimo knows that.
Okay.
She courted her husband for 10 years.
Okay. So after the first year, and you guys are still on this matter, if it's not heading for marriage, then you're deceiving yourselves. So after 1 year, if you're not able to tell each other this truth, you're deceiving each other. So, I mean, you build it. Once it's clear that this is heading towards marriage, you have to open up.
You put all your cards on the table.
Put all the cards on the table. So let the person know that actually his wig you've been wearing, you don't have hair on your head. Or, you know, I mean, it can be as interesting as that.
Yeah.
You know, let him know that in your house, or there's some tradition they do, and they will always do it on wedding day. You know. So it's so important.
Okay.
It's not when you get into it, because some people say this, you know, that when we get married, I will tell him that I had 20 boyfriends before him, you know, or that I had abortion.
Is this some people? Because I've actually had marriage counselors tell you that whatever happened in your past relationship, you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to bring it.
Well, I disagree.
People,
I disagree because I'm sorry. I'll be quiet shortly.
no, I just wanted our own view.
Okay, please go
about
ahead.
that.
I was just about to say what you just said now, Odo, which is that I know people come and they say, my past is behind me. God has forgiven me for my past. I'm a new creation in Christ Jesus. All things are passed away. I understand. That is between you and Christ. That is between you and Christ. But you are going to be living with someone that deserves to know the truth. Now, I agree with Wande with what she said, that there's a process to divulging truth. There's a level of closeness, seriousness, that you don't meet someone on the first day and you're telling the person all the boyfriends you've had and how intimate you were with them, the number of abortions you've had. They don't really need to know that at that stage. And the truth is, discussing, if we've now decided that we're going into marriage, we are going to be one, as in I'm bringing myself, you're bringing yourself, we're going to be one, then I owe you that. I don't agree with those marriage counselors that would say you don't tell them your past. But then your past should be defined. I don't need the details. And I think any mature man who already knows you are the will of God for his life would not go to start what's that word? You know, trying to find so you were with this guy. How many years were you with? So what did you do with him? So where did you have? So what? No. Any matured man would know that, yeah, you are telling me this just for integrity's sake.
Yeah.
So that nothing springs up tomorrow. Something as important as not having a womb or a man not being fertile. It is something you don't come and tell me you are having faith that when you get married. I've had cases like that. That the man is telling the woman that I had faith, I pray to God. I pray to God that on the wedding night, the thing will just work. If it did not work before the wedding night, it will not work on the wedding night. There's no point. Do you understand? Yes, that is deception. That is devilish. That is not Christian-like.
True.
So say anything that would involve the other person in marriage, that would require the other person's participation, and your body, the Bible says, is no longer yours alone, but for that person. So you owe that person, the responsibility to know what has happened to your body, where you've been, and all of that. The details of your life. Example, there's no point lying. You made a tutu. Why come and tell the person that I made a first class?
Yes,
there's no point now. Just tell the person the truth. I made a tutu, or I didn't finish from school.
Yeah.
My sister, I'm listening.
Let me just cut you short. So let's go on a short break.
No problem.
Sorry, we'll be back.
When people are
Yeah.
willing to, compromise, make the sacrifice, and that's
Yeah.
you being deliberate about this thing, you know. So I mean,
Right.
her story is similar to mine. My husband is phlegmatic. For the most part, he's phlegmatic. So you want to make a decision on something, it takes longer time. Even when, so I have a business idea, and I say to him, okay, sweetheart, this is what I want to do and stuff like that. The first thing my husband brings out is all the
reasons
risk.
why it won't work.
The reason why it would not work. And I'm wondering, would this man ever see the positive side of things?
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating, But so many times, it took a long time for me to discover this solution. So over time, what I then do is, I'll do SWOTs. So this is strength, this is the weakness, the threats, and so forth. And I'll go take it to him. Read it yourself. Because, I mean, if you're not willing, or if these things begin to get to you, these are the things that cause cracks in the marriage. Little things.
Yeah.
And it begins to build,
Yeah. Wow.
Mm.
It's been enlightening. Like I said earlier, I'm listening to both of you talk, and I'm telling myself, Odu, you should have done better. Odu, you could have done something in certain way, But that's actually the purpose of this show, is to help each other, to help us as women to make better decisions, to make better choices, and to see how we all help each other along this way. Because it's a journey. It's a journey that biblically you should actually be just death that ends it. But we know things happen. We know life happens.
Right.
And so all we can just do is try to be better, to do better, and to, God willing, get it right. So that is it for us today on this show. And in fact, I wish we could just go on. I wish we could go on, because it's very, 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 very been educative and entertaining. So I want to thank my guests. Thank you so much, Wande, for coming. We really learned a lot from you, even though we didn't get to the part where you have to talk about all those Bible verses. But we are still going to bring you back. You are still going to have your time to talk about it.
No problem.
I promise you. Timo, Novo Federation. Peace out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
It was fun.
I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Well done. Yes, I had a great time. Thank you, Wande too. Had a great time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And like I told Wande too, we are still going to bring you back. Box, you didn't finish all those lists. And we talked about just one. So I know we still have others to talk about. So
No
we're still going
wala.
to bring you back. And hopefully everything
No
will
wala.
click. There won't be glitches.
Yes.
So thank you so much for
At
coming on the
all.
show.
At all. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you
people.
too.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's show. We had fun. We were educated. We were enlightened. Personally, my own eyes was open to a lot of facts that I did not take cognizance of in my marriage. And hopefully this will help me, help you, help all the women out there to find a way to make it work. And until next time when I come your way, don't forget the recipes we mentioned today. We talked about patience, we talked about persistency, we talked about integrity, having core values, knowing yourself, understanding your spouse, understanding yourself, know what your values are, and agreeing to work towards that same goal. What I usually tell people, if two people are ready to make it work, it will work. That's the truth. So those are parts of the lessons we intend for you guys to get today. So until next week when I come your way, I still remain your girl, your daughter, your friend, your fellow woman, Odun Akirele. And this is Glimpse Extra. See you next time.